Last week, Chief Adrian Diaz announced a task force to address community violence. Tonight, we are hearing from him in his first sit-down interview since that deadly shooting, and I asked him, is Seattle safe? Chief Diaz, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
Last week, you announced the creation of a community violence task force. Is it working?
Yeah, we actually saw some success during the weekend where we saw a reduction in shootings. But as we get into the summer days, that'll be really where we're pulling all of our resources to make sure that this is fully up and running and functional.
You announced the creation of the task force after the random shooting that occurred in Belltown. It killed Eina Kwon, a pregnant woman, also a local business owner. I want to ask you point blank, is the city of Seattle safe?
You know, I believe it is safe. You know, an incident like that is going to make people feel unsafe, and I get that. So for us, building this task force out, making sure we're focused on these areas, we got to regain that trust.
It's not just the shooting. We had the random attack of a woman that was hit in the back of the head with a baseball bat. We had the woman that was beaten and thrown down the staircase at a light rail station. And I'm hearing you acknowledge that people do feel unsafe when those seemingly random things occur. But how do you combat random crime like that?
You know, I think that's trying to make sure that we put officers in the right place.
Do you have the manpower to do that?
You know, we're actually, for a short period of time for this summer, I'm pulling every resource that I can possibly pull.
How many police officers right now are you short in being fully staffed, ideally where you wouldn't have to pull anyone?
About 360 officers, and if that gives you some context, it'd be close to about 3 to 4 precincts that would not have a patrol officer in those precincts.
Why do you think you are having some trouble recruiting?
You know, across the country, I think policing as a profession is having trouble recruiting.
So what crimes are you prioritizing? What should people know about when calling 911, on which things to call for and which ones you might not have the resources to respond to right away?
Yeah, and actually I would encourage people to call either our non-emergency line, the non-emergency line, or 911, and they'll direct them based on the information that they provide. When it comes to the officer response, priority one is number one, and that is literally the crime in progress, that is a violent crime, that life is potentially in risk.
We have a couple big events coming up. What is your department doing to prepare for these big events that bring a lot of tourists in?
You know, Pride has always been a big event over the last several years, and we staff it across the whole route. We'll have officers, you know, actively engage the community throughout that whole route, and it's actually one of the funner events for our officers. And then we look at MLB All-Star. So we've already planned for events that are this magnitude.
I want to follow up with you on Seattle Pride. This year, for the second year, police officers will not be allowed to march in uniform. How do you feel about that?
I'm disappointed. This department has several hundred people that would identify as LGBTQ, and it's disappointing for them to not be able to be who they are and also be in the profession that they are.
Let me end with this. Solving crime in Seattle feels like an impossible task. How do you wake up and go to work every day?
You know, it's funny. Sometimes I feel like I don't sleep. I think chiefs across the country will say Seattle and Portland are some of the toughest jobs to be the police chief. But you know, honestly, I have good people that are working and doing the job, and I give them the credit that, you know, they deserve. They're working hard, and we're going to continue to work hard to make sure the city's safe.
The chief and I also spoke about the department's recruiting efforts, a recent city council decision to strike down a public drug use law, and if he has enough money. We have that extended interview for you on king5.com, where the chief also gives more information about that newly formed community violence task force.